It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. Alan Saunders back in the fold. Alan, how we doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing all right. It's always good hearing Brandon Rossi's voice bring us in. Not that I didn't appreciate having Aaron Becker on the show on Friday, but the intro just doesn't hit the exact same when it's just the instrumental without Brandon Rossi's voice accompanying it. So always appreciate hearing that.
There you go.
As you know, I mean, how many times have we talked about our intro? I mean, not enough. As many times as we talked about it, still not enough. Still not enough. A lot of great questions from the YouTube community. Going to be focused on that through a lot of today's episode. By the way, I didn't realize I would ruffle some feathers talking about with Aaron being on here Friday. I said my favorite AB associated with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and a lot of people coming to Antonio Brown's defense when I said that. Listen, I appreciate what he did on the field, but I'm talking strictly from a person perspective here when it comes to that. So,
I mean, he literally refused to play in a game that the Steelers needed to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. Like, what are we doing here, people?
Yep.
I mean, he was a good player.
Hey.
You can say he was a good player while I was
Absolutely.
here, but I mean, sheesh.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I want to bring something up, and this
Okay.
is, we didn't talk about this, so the audience is getting your unblemished reaction to this.
Yeah.
We need more nicknames in football that are like, not like people's initials or like weird like branding marketing. We need more organic nicknames.
Yeah.
And it got me, like, I've had this thought for a while, and it got me thinking, what's the best nickname in Steelers history?
Oh, in Steelers history.
Like, what's the best
Jeez.
nickname? And I think the Bus is a pretty obvious one.
Yeah.
That's got to be up there. We should have like a best, but like, what makes a nickname? What got me down this road is what makes a nickname good, and I think that's like a difficult. And so I was like, I don't know. I want to give out some nicknames. I want to help some people develop some nicknames. I want to be a nickname guy. I have
how popular. How popular were actually like Troy Polamalu's nicknames? Or was that just kind of like a very niche thing? Did they ever really like the Flying Hawaiian, Tasmanian
I've
Devil?
never heard anyone call him anything.
Okay, so all right, yeah, so
Polamalu.
That's what I'm saying. So I feel like they didn't really catch on to the way that I would have hoped. But I don't really know then. Like the Bus is the only one that like jumps off to me. It's not initials. How many nicknames were there even in? Obviously, like because I thought you were just going to open it up to the entire NFL. Steelers related, I can't think of any.
I mean, there have been like good, like you can shorten a name to make that a nickname. I think that works. It's some like Foo, like I mean that's like taking a 9-syllable word name and making it one, and like that's like it. Like that's like I never heard anyone call him anything other than Foo, right? Like that was it. That was just who he was. I think that's good. I don't know. I just think we need more nicknames. I mean, if you go back in history, there's lots of great nicknames. I feel like the great nicknames are all old school, right? Like Big Daddy Lipscomb. Like that's somebody we talked about in this podcast before. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. Like, that's a great nickname.
Night
I don't know how
Lane.
it happened. Yeah, if you want to talk about like NFL wide, like Refrigerator Perry, Too Tall Jones, like those don't have anything to do with. I mean, they're both describing their physique, but I don't know. I think we've come out of the era of good nicknames, and we need to get back there. Big Ben, I guess, is like it's probably the best one in recent memory for the Steelers, but that's just such a. It's right there. It's not much of a stretch. Like I think the good nicknames. Debo, James Harrison. A lot of people call James Harrison Debo.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good nickname. We need more like
Casey Hampton, Big Snack.
Big Snack. There you go. That's a good one. I feel like we need a bracket. We need a Steelers nickname bracket, and then I'm going to dig into this rookie class and see if we have some nickname potential.
I'm glad I can tell right now there were probably people that started off listening or watching this and they were like screaming at their phone with us not saying Debo or Big Snack. And then we eventually, as we were having the conversation, got to that point and they're like, okay, they can now erase the message that they had typed out because we eventually got around to saying them.
Yeah. I think there's some potential with this class, but I'm interested to see what I'm trying to do some science and see what makes a nickname good. I don't know that there's an easy answer to that question.
No, absolutely not. But I'm looking forward to this. I want to know, obviously, in the comments, I'm sure people are going to drop down below their favorites. As it pertains to the Steelers, sure, but there's probably a bunch that we have left out, obviously, league wide as well. So drop some of the best ones, your favorite ones down below in the comments as well. This whole conversation started off talking about Antonio Brown, though, AB. That is the initial one. So let's bring it back to
the thing. I don't know. It's not the same.
No, absolutely not. Let's bring it back to the wide receiver conversation, though. And just to show you guys 100% I mean this, as long as it's not something absolutely like that I can't say on here, I will read your usernames. So Branson Sloppy Seconds has a question here from YouTube. Said, Alan and Zach, what traits do you need for a Z wide receiver? Why can't anyone on the roster currently fit that position?
How committed Smitty is to the idea of will answer or will read almost any nickname or any
with a straight face
username with a straight face is that Jacksboro 3 days ago gave almost the exact same question here. And you chose to read the one from Branson Sloppy Seconds. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
What traits do they need for a Z wide receiver? Well, okay. In general, and then specifically to the Steelers, a Z wide receiver is someone who plays outside. So you have two outside receivers usually in a formation, almost always. To play outside, you have to be able to deal with press coverage. I think that's the biggest thing that separates people that can play outside from people that can't play outside. You have to be able to deal with press coverage. There are multiple ways to be able to deal with press coverage. Sometimes you're just bigger, stronger than them. Sometimes you're quicker than them. Most of the time, size is a help. But Chase Claypool was huge and had a hard time beating press coverage. So it's not always. But generally speaking, bigger guys are better at playing outside. The things that most teams look for their Z receivers to do is dominate intermediate routes, to be a really polished route runner, someone who's able to attack man and zone, and be that sort of, generally speaking, your Z wide receiver is going to be the guy that should lead your offense to targets. Like that's how most offenses are built. Where
Deontay Johnson.
Deontay Johnson, right. Your Z receiver leads you in targets. Your X receiver has fewer targets, but they're big plays. They're way down the field. They're your shot guy. And then your slot receiver is underneath. When I think about Jamar Chase probably is to me like the number one example of what you want in a Z wide receiver in the NFL right now. He does all that. He does all that and more. He's probably talented enough to play in where you want him to. But like that to me is like the example of what you're looking for in a Z wide receiver. For the Steelers specifically, you can always do things differently. If you have a different kind of X receiver, maybe you have a different kind of Z receiver. The Steelers play a lot of two tight ends. When you play two tight ends, you end up almost like you're in double X. Both of those guys end up taking on some of the roles of an X receiver. So I think the Steelers probably lean towards wanting more size and physicality from their Z receivers than average. They also run heavy offense that want their receivers to be able to block. They did some things, if you remember, with Van Jefferson last year, where he was an insert blocker, meaning he was actually blocking a linebacker in between the tight end and another offense and the tackle, or in between the tackle and the guard. He's like sticking his nose in the air and trying to get a block. So you don't want like a 150-pound guy as your Z receiver in the Steelers offense specifically. So, I mean, I think the Steelers are looking for a bigger receiver, a bigger body receiver. You still want that route running, the ability to run every route in the intermediate. But yeah, I mean, look, it is the middle of May. There aren't players that have like two of those characteristics available, let alone all of them. So I don't know who they're going to end up with. Probably someone who doesn't fit the bill very well at this point.
Yeah.
Seems likely. And then like what makes their internal options not like fit. Like Calvin not big enough and not necessarily able to run every kind of route the way you would need him to. Roman Wilson may be big enough, but probably not the kind of elite separator you would need to be at his size at that position. Robert Woods just age, and
I was gonna say Robert Woods
really a legitimate number 2 wide receiver, but certainly would not be right now.
But with what Robert Woods, I think, did well, I think he could make sense as a receiver. And also, we got to get back to using the term flanker far more often, I think, than we do currently.
Flanker and Z receiver are same thing, and I do appreciate, since we're talking about throwing things back to flanker and split end is Z and X. I'm all on board with that.
Yeah. So I guess because generally speaking, at least, and maybe you can speak to like the Steelers how they use them. And I don't know if in Arthur's different than like how Canada would have been with the use of a Z receiver, but generally speaking, lined up on the same side of the field as the tight end. Is that typically how they're deployed for the Steelers as well?
Yeah, I mean, I would say more often than not. Yeah. That's probably true. It's so the tight end lines up on the line of scrimmage and the X receiver lines up on the line of scrimmage. You have to have 2 of your eligibles on the line of scrimmage, the rest off. And the flanker, the Z, does not line up on the line of scrimmage most of the time. But I mean, you can have your tight end take a step back and you can have both wide receivers on the line of scrimmage, and that's not like the end of the world. So, but yeah, usually you're lining up and you can flip them. You can have, but you have to have one of those guys on either side. Like both tackles have to be covered. Otherwise, it's an illegal formation. So usually you have a tight end on one side, X on the other. Then the Z can either be on the same side as the tight end, or you can have both those guys on the same side of the field at the same time as well.
Yeah. But in terms of the other, I also just do not see that guy currently on the roster. Don't see him in free agency. Does that guy exist in the trade market for the Steelers? Potentially, we can discuss it because I'm noticing in the YouTube comments a lot of wide receiver conversation, and I 100% get it. But Fax Mob doesn't seem to think they're actually going to go and get anybody. He was talking about Aaron and I on Friday. He said you guys can go on and on about who Omar should trade for, but he absolutely, in caps, will not trade for anything of any value. We'll wait till the last minute and get the cheapest, most obscure bargain bin wide receiver option available. How many times does he have to show you this before we believe who he is? Guarantee Omar won't go after another wide receiver value. Get ready to speak Roman Wilson or Alan Lazard, buddy.
Are we talking about the same guy who traded for DK Metcalf earlier this offseason? Is that we're saying that he's not going to make a big trade? No, Omar Khan isn't going to make a bad trade. I think that's the thing that you should have learned about Omar Khan, is that he's not going to feel the desperation that the fans feel over putting out a team with an obvious hole in the lineup and say, yeah, overpay. He's not going to do it. Look, this team is not going anywhere this year. It doesn't make any sense for the Steelers to overpay to fill a hole now that they can fill later without overpaying. It just doesn't. So, I think it's very possible that they don't make a trade. Absolutely. They will not overpay. They will not make a bad trade just to make one. But you can bet that he's trying to. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, I don't know how many times I'm going to say this over the course of the summer, but genuinely feel like a lot of the discourse surrounding the wide receiver room is just because we had a 2-month hiatus of having it, but it's basically the same conversation we had last year. Now, I know it's a lot different to go and acquire DK Metcalf and then pay him substantial money as well. That's a commitment for sure, 100%. But I'm just talking about the state of the room itself, where you have that one guy and then you're trying to find that second piece. It's the same conversation as last year, which is why I think we're getting a lot of the wide receiver fatigue discussion. I know I mentioned a lot of comments and questions are about it, but this comment from Fax Mob just says to me, it's a continuation. We're just waiting for that other wide receiver to be acquired.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, it may not. I think it's probably unlikely that it'll happen, but they're absolutely going to try. Probably going to spend the whole rest of the offseason talking about wide receivers, because if it does happen, the most likely opportunity for it to happen is at cut down time. That's the most likely time to acquire one of these guys. So, I mean, look, it's very possible it's not going to happen, but it's not because the Steelers don't want it to happen. I would be very skeptical of a starting wide receiver being traded to any team other than the Pittsburgh Steelers for the rest of this offseason. Like, if someone's available to be traded and is actually going to be traded and is willing to be traded for equal return, not like saying like, oh, well, if you overpay, we'll do it. The Steelers are going to be the team to do it. But I mean, these moves just don't happen very often. So I don't think we should expect it, but they're certainly going to try. Yeah.
A name that has been mentioned not only by Mr. Man 3523 here, but also in the latest betting odds, should this wide receiver play anywhere else besides the Miami Dolphins, and that's Tyreek Hill. I think that this is, I don't know if interesting is the right word to bring up here, but I want to get your take on this because somebody asked me if I felt like the Steelers would even approach this given, just moving on from George Pickens. Be who you can afford to be. And obviously Tyreek Hill's body of work in the NFL is much greater than that of George Pickens. But, he's also had issues of his own, obviously, throughout his tenure. And I'm just curious as to if you feel like the Steelers would even be in that market for Tyreek Hill.
Well, first of all, the Dolphins can't trade him. It would be an $88 million dead cap hit. It's not even feasibly possible. I'm sorry, not 88. Where is it now? Okay. 57. Still an unconscionable amount of money to go on your dead cap hit. It's just not going to happen.
I mean, I knew they just gave him a new deal. Like him and Jalen Ramsey both got brand new money, and then they started talking about trading both of them 1 year into the deals. So
first of all, Miami just can't trade him. Second of all, you don't trade George Pickens to trade for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah,
the Steelers didn't trade George Pickens because they were unhappy with the player. They traded George Pickens because they were unhappy with the person. You don't do that and then trade for Tyreek Hill, who's just perennially peeved about every situation he's in. I just can't. And has, unlike George Pickens, actually got in real world trouble off the football field. I mean, say what you want about Pickens. He never got arrested. All his problems were just personnel. Like, this feels, a better player, but like a worse in that regard. So, and like, that's an interesting actually part of this discussion too, to go back to AB, that I generally think, and like, I think an NFL team would rather have a criminal than a guy who can't get along with anyone.
I mean, yeah.
I think
you're right. It's more
if you gave an NFL head coach true serum and you're like, this guy's a felon, but the whole locker room hates this guy. Which one do you want? Probably the first.
Yeah.
Probably the first.
You're right. I mean, as long as they're productive and they can get along with the guys in that locker room.
Same production. Which one do you want? I think they'd take the actual criminal. But so look, I mean, someone's going to take Tyreek Hill. I don't see the Steelers being that team. They had, not to say that they're similar players because they're not at all, but they had a player of legitimate quality to be a starter wide receiver that they basically gave away because they were tired of dealing with them. You don't do that and then go get Tyreek Hill. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That was my mindset too, but I was curious if you were on the same wavelength. I mean, like you said, I honestly not even looking into the dead cap that they would take on. I mentioned
like
the Steelers at the top of those betting odds for a team that isn't the Dolphins, but it's still like super long. Like, it's like far and away.
Yeah. It was like plus 1,700, even though they were the top team. It's like, so basically he's not being traded is what those odds should tell you.
Absolutely. Far more plausible that one of these wide receivers is moved. Hemi Hera 6219 said, guys, Texans have more wide receivers available than the Packers. Think we should be talking more about them. Took both receivers from Iowa State, who are both very good players. Texans should be a target for a team that needs a wide receiver.
I mean, yeah, but Tank Dell's out, right?
Yep. Obviously, Stephon Diggs hit free agency. Tank Dell's.
So, what do they have? They have Collins. They got Christian Kirk. They got the two rookies. They got John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I would take Mechie or Hutchinson if they became available to the Steelers, but like, I don't think those guys are starters, really.
I was just saying, like, they're not moving the needle. Like, yes, they could probably
better than Robert
on the
Woods.
roster.
Yeah, they were last year, right? They're on the same team. Sure, I would take those guys, but like, I don't think the answer's there. Not to the way that that it really needs to be. Green Bay's guys, I think, are at least sort of more legitimate starting caliber. Very similar to Houston is a team that I think not enough people are mentioning, and that's New England, who very similarly does not have like star quality, but just has too many guys. They drafted Kyle Williams, who I loved in this draft class, by the way. And they already have Diggs, Mac Hollins, Demario Douglas, Butte, Bourne, and Jalen Polk. So that's 7. All right, so they got too many. But, like, again, what are they going to do? They're going to trade Bourne for a 5th-round pick. I mean, okay, it's probably better than what the Steelers have, but that's not solving the problem.
You can play on the outside at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, that is probably better than what the Steelers are going to end up with, so I will take it. But, I mean, I just don't think that's...
What do you think, I mean, you know, I don't know how many Tampa Bay Buccaneers sources you have or anything like that, but just from the outside looking in perspective, curious what your thought is on that wide receiver room. Just because obviously they bring Chris Godwin back, Mike Evans still playing at a super high level, spend a 1st-round pick on Emeka Egbuka, but then they got Jalen McMillan, who like started off real slow last year, but scored 8 touchdowns post-bye. Like, what do we make of that? Is there a potential guy on the out there?
I think Chris Godwin is of questionable health to start the year. And so I think that's the thought process there.
We'll say he does come back and like start lighting it up again and play super well.
I'd be all in on Jalen McMillan. I can't see them trading him.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wasn't really thinking about, you know, Godwin at the beginning of the season coming back from that, but yeah,
that's just Palmer too. I mean, again, like not a player that's, you know, like, you know, really gonna be anyone's like begging to throw into a starting lineup, but also would probably be an upgrade. And they drafted Tez Johnson in addition to Egbuka.
Yeah.
So that's again, and they have Sterling Shepard. I mean, do I care? Not really, but like, yeah, I mean, like there's again, it's just there are receivers out there, but man,
there's a lot of teams that have 6 or 7 receivers in the last one, the one that does not make that roster.
7th, right? Like that's the way those
things usually go. And the one that doesn't make that roster might be the 4th or 5th best on the Steelers.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be maybe better than Robert Woods. Maybe. Like that's like their best hope is that someone like one of those players that we've mentioned is an actual upgrade on what they have.
Giving a lot of people hope right now for this is probably just depressing people listening to this conversation about the wide receiver room, but hey, it's the realistic perspective for what it's looking like. I got somebody that disagreed with me here. This is finally not related to the wide receiver stuff. Will Bates said, Smitty, got to disagree with you that you don't have to get into the top 5 next year. You don't just want any quarterback. You want your guy. We can get a guy in pick 6 to 10, but the likelihood that would be the quarterback we feel best about is pretty slim in my opinion. There's going to be plenty of QB needy teams and teams wanting to trade up. If we go for pick 8, say, for instance, that leaves plenty of opportunity for those teams to snipe us. In my opinion, giving up more to get into the top 5 is necessary and worth it.
I don't agree. I don't think the Steelers would agree either. Who was the first quarterback taken in 2005 or in 2004 when the Steelers drafted Ben Roethlisberger? It was not Ben Roethlisberger. Neither was he the next quarterback taken. You know, the idea of like the first quarterback taken actually has generally not been the better quarterback. Like, even if you having any conviction on your take about which top 10 quarterback is better than the other is silly. You're honestly better off letting other teams make the decision and just taking the one that falls to you, as the Steelers did in 2004 when Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers were both drafted ahead of Ben Roethlisberger. But we see this happen over and over and over again. Like, it's not like this is obviously a one-time thing that impacted the Steelers, but all the time we see this. Patrick Mahomes, where's he drafted? Like Lamar Jackson, where's he drafted? Like, there's been plenty of time. The idea of the 26th draft is you are not targeting one player. You're targeting a deep pool of quarterbacks that deserve to be taken in the first half of the first round. And that is why you don't need to go up into the top 5. You just need to go high enough that you get one of them.
Yeah, that was my point basically on Friday's episode was I said, I think that they are, in a good spot because the abundance of talent that it looks like there's going to be at the position. Like, obviously, who knows how the year's going to play out, but like outside looking in right now, it looks like a very deep group. So for that reason, you would have to not only not move up as high, but give up less because of that. So
that was the idea that like the Steelers should target their guy. That's totally wrong. You shouldn't feel that strongly about your own thoughts about it's not it. Like you take the one that you find the value. The value is not trading up to one to have your strong opinion about whatever. Arch Manning versus Drew Aller. Whatever your thoughts are about the quarterback class. But by the way, I got a lot of comments of people saying Arch Manning's not coming out. If Arch Manning's good, Arch Manning's going to be the first overall pick and he's going to come out like 100%. Anyone who's telling you that he's not is lying. So
I mean, listening to his family, I guess, but I mean, you're right. Like if he plays well enough where he would be the number one pick, I understand how enticing NIL can be these days, but you have a hard time thinking he's passing up being the number one pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna happen.
I mean, I get the other side. Not that I see it, but just to like, I guess I don't even know if I would say devil's advocate here, but if that number one is locked in place and it's like not like a team where he definitely knows he doesn't want to go to or something like that, and he has the leverage to say I'm gonna go back to school or something.
I guess that's possible. Cleveland, he doesn't want to go there or whatever. I guess that's possible, but
the Manning family doing it again.
I think you would see us in Eli's situation a lot easier to work than because Cleveland, just like what we're talking about, if Cleveland has one and somebody and let's say the Saints have picked 4 and the Mannings are fine with him going to play for the Saints, maybe you'd want him to go play for the Saints, considering the family history. Well, the Browns should be tickled to get a whole bunch of draft capital to move down from 1 to 4 so they can get a player who's got a coin flip chance to be better anyway.
Cade Klubnik?
Yeah, sure.
No, I don't want him. I don't want him in Cleveland. So, but anyway, I don't know. I think that's super interesting. I'm with you though. I think if he has like that type of season, it's not going to be a conversation. And I guess you could say the same thing about like a Lenore Sellers, who people have also talked about not coming out until 27. Like, we'll see the type of year that he has.
First round pick, you're coming out. I mean, almost always. Drew Aller would have been a first round pick, and he didn't this year, and he didn't come out. But that's very rare.
Mm-hmm. Which he was like weird, not to get off topic here, but I thought it was a weird situation just because like definitely a weaker quarterback class this year, which could have propped him up. But like watching him individually definitely felt like he would benefit from going back. So it's like a double-edged sword almost.
Yeah, he only would have been a first round pick because it was a bad quarterback class.
Right.
And like certainly like that you can get paid that way. I guess that's the question is like if like Arch Manning's not going to go if he's the 6th best quarterback, right? Like where he would still be taking the first round, but clearly has a lot of things he wants to work on, or maybe he has an injury, misses some time, something like that. Then he's probably going to go back to school.
But and then last thing here, just while we're on the quarterback stuff, Cessna 182 says, "Do you think Will Howard will get a chance to show himself?"
Cessna 182 RG. That means the
RG
retracts. Cessna's an airplane. Guess we got a pilot fan here. Will Howard will not. Yeah, preseason. Does that count?
that's what I was just saying. Training camp, preseason. Basically everything leading up to the regular season.
Is it possible that the third quarterback plays? Sure,
we've seen it a ton
all the time. Both of the last 2 times the Steelers won the Super Bowl, the third quarterback played that season. Small piece of trivia for you there.
All right, so we should want to see Will Howard.
So, like, it's certainly possible, but I mean, I wouldn't bet on
it. Yeah, I'm trying to think of Aaron, obviously, age and the injury that he had just been coming back from, certainly possible for him to miss time. Mason, outside of the concussion, though, I feel like he's been relatively healthy. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a world where it happens, but it's just...
Well, I mean, look, Mason didn't play well enough to keep his job last year. That's probably more of a concern than his health.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Say it's Aaron due to injury. Do you think that there's a chance they would turn the keys over to Will at some point just to get a look at him anyway, like if Mason wasn't playing?
I mean, the Titans won one of the 5 games that Rudolph started, and he had a passer rating of 80. That's not keeping you your job very many places. And 9 interceptions in 8 games.
Someone just this conversation made me think about it too. Someone DM'd me after Friday's episode and just said, "I love how you guys just keep talking like Aaron's already on the roster." And I said, "Well, I mean, the organization's talking like he's on the roster, so why would we?"
Those are Rooney. I'm allowed to if he is.
Yeah, I mean, I just we're waiting for it. We're waiting for it. I mean, I'll be stunned. I'm willing to use that word at this point if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Anything else you wanted to touch on?
There's one more question here I want to get to because I think it's interesting. I know we're
up
against it, but Cliff the Dark Knight asked, and this is talking about the Lave stuff. When these leaks come out and it's from a source, who is that source? Is it a player, an agent, a coach, or someone within the front office? And when a source leaks news, who does it benefit? And you don't have to reveal your source. Well, I'm glad you said I don't have to because I'm not going to. All of the above. In fact, like far more than just named. The source could be a janitor or the cleaning lady or somebody's best friend or somebody's dad or somebody's preacher or somebody's trainer. In fact, all of those things have been sources for pieces of news. Sometimes people are motivated because they want to correct the record when they see something out there is untrue. Sometimes people have their own motivations for wanting something to be out there publicly. I've had a story where something is about to happen in an organization, and someone in that organization that doesn't want it to happen leaks that it's going to happen because they're hoping that a negative public reaction to that leak will get somebody else to change their mind. Agents leak things all the time because they want to look good and they want their clients to look good. And so, there's all kinds of reasons, far more than sometimes people just have a good relationship with other people and they decide, hey, this is news is going to get out somebody. I want somehow, some way, I want that person to be the one to have it. And so, yeah, all sorts of motivations. Sometimes this information gets traded. Sometimes a reporter has a piece of information that somebody else wants, or sometimes they have a story that maybe somebody else doesn't want reported. And then, oh, well, what if I give you this one instead? There's lots of these reasons that these things come out. Not all of them strictly fully ethical, although I feel good about our processes at SteelersNow.com, and we're not breaking all the news in the world, but we get ours from time to time. So figured I'd peel back the curtain there. That was a good question by Cliff there.
Yeah. Listen though, Cliff, why was this specifically said to Alan? I mean, we're acting like your boy's not getting information here from. I was on a podcast last Monday hearing about Chris Olave. I didn't put it out there. Like I even said on the podcast, I was like, I'm hesitant to say this, but I'll give you guys a little something here. Because I like to have 2 people confirm it that I know would not have had a conversation with each other about it. Like 2 independent sources tell me something about it before I put it out there. And only one person told me. So I said, hey, I've heard that they've called the Saints at least twice about Chris Olave. Do with that information what you will.
Yeah. Or I generally feel like, or it's a first person source. First person, like if the agent who negotiated the contract is telling me the details of the contract, I'm like, all right, you probably know.
It was funny though. You talked about like the different occupations within the organization people could have. I actually lost. You remember how a couple of years ago, when Broderick Jones was switching, or Broderick Jones randomly got inserted into the lineup on that Thursday night game or whatever, and I was the one to put it out. Like I just tweeted the numbers of people, the alignment. Yeah. They're not doing this job anymore, so I don't feel bad. It was literally a security guard that told me that information.
There you go.
So it's just funny
it's all over the it's all over the spectrum. I mean, I've heard of stories being broken by all people's neighbors, wherever you can get the information, as long as you can get it vetted, and that's the way it works.
There we go. Good stuff. There you go, Cliff. And then there's we're not answering this right now, but I'm just giving you guys a teaser. Devin the House had a really good question. I don't want Devin to think we're leaving him out here. We will definitely bring up his question that we had in the queue here on tomorrow's episode, along with something I got on Instagram from Brooklyn that I think is pertinent to the QB conversation.
Working on some guests for the rest of this week too, so stay tuned for that.
Oh yeah, that could impact obviously things depending on how the week goes. But Devin and Brooklyn, don't worry, those questions that you've gotten to us definitely in the queue to get answered this week. Alan, until then, tell the people they can find you.
A Saunders _PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now, sites account, SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the word so I can get paid. Sign up for SN Plus. We will be having another SN Plus members only live stream. If you are a member and you missed it last week, you can go back to the post on the website and click and check it out. And that was a good time. We'll do it again next month. So make sure you do that. And your ad-free viewing experience at SteelersNow.com is honestly worth it all by itself. And then, of course, like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. I feel like we hit this number a lot, 15,748. I think we were just there to not too long ago, maybe exactly 100 ago. And I think I said Cassius Marsh that time around. So I think this time I'll go with another edge rusher of I'll say Jameer Jones. Oh, Cassius Marsh is 49.
49, yeah.
Yeah, that's where we were. I'll go Jameer Jones. He wore 48 very, very briefly.
I mean, yeah, Bud's too good and too prominent. Who would have worn 48 before him, though?
The only one I can remember is a tight end from the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah, so that's...
Wow. Matt Cushing was... I think he might have been on the first Super Bowl.
UDFA rocking it right now, right? DJ Thomas Jones, I believe, is currently 40.
A good look. It's not a good
yeah.
look. It's not.
No, it's not. But that's all I got. If anybody for somehow, some way has a 48 to throw away.
Godwin Igwebuike.
Oh. There you go. There's one.
There's one.
There's one.
That is a one.
Yeah. As Alan said, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, hit us in the comments your thoughts on anything that we talked about today, a question for a future episode, you know the drill, all that good stuff. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, be sure to leave a 5-star review, subscribe over there, just search Steelers Afternoon Drive, do the same thing on TikTok, and then you'll find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in, take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.